Throughout the years, we've had different pets at our house, including a tree frog, a tiger salamander, 3 murderous gerbils, a cord-chewing rabbit, a cat from hell, a blind and deaf cat, and currently we have 5 fish and 2 different cats. And these 2 cats, they couldn't be any more different. I mean, I've got one cat who is older and likes to just kind of stare out the window, and a second younger cat who thinks it's a dog and is in need of some serious ADHD medicine. I don't know about you, but I find just in general that there are 2 types of cats. There are cats who are high-strung, and there are cats who have seemed to just kind of call it quits. And it's pretty easy to tell the 2 apart. You got the high-strung.
Miren.
And then the ones that call it quits.
My life be like, yeah. My life be like.
Yep, you got the high strung. And ones that just called it quits. You got high-strung.
Ну, к тебе друг пришел. Он хочет тебе помочь быть красивым. Прими его.
And just called it quits. And finally, you got high-strung.
Yaptım. Bitti. Bitti ama. Bitti, yaptım, bitti. Bir dakikalık bir şey mi? Bir dakika.
And just called it quits. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I would much rather have a just called it quits cat than a high-strung cat, because high-strung cats are exhausting. Just called it quit cats? Well, they're exhausted. Life must have come at them pretty hard. And they've just had enough. And I think we can all relate to the exhausted cats, because we have all certainly been there, haven't we? The guy in our Bible story today certainly has been there. In John chapter 5, there is a story about a pool named Bethesda. And back in this day, there was believed to be something special about this pool. Now, depending on what translation of the Bible you are using, you may have an extra verse or a verse missing that describes this pool. And that verse would be John chapter 5, verse 4, which might say something like this. From time to time, an angel of the Lord will come down and stir up the waters. The first one into the pool after such a disturbance would be cured of whatever disease they had. Okay, so that's in some Bibles, but not in others. Why is that? Well, remember that the Bible is a book of sacred texts that were later in history combined into one book. These sacred texts were written mostly in Hebrew and Greek, the Old Testament and the New Testament. And then after these scrolls were handwritten, they would then be copied and passed down from generation to generation. Well, occasionally, when someone was copying a text, they may add in a little bit of their own words to make sure that the reader understands what is actually going on. This means that the most reliable versions of these texts would be the oldest versions, having been hand-copied the least. since they were originally written. So as archaeological discoveries happen throughout the years, they unearth sometimes older texts than we used with the previous version. Those oldest texts are then what the translators will use to translate the different versions of the Bible that we have throughout the years. So this particular verse, it was found initially in the texts that were used to translate it, but then as some older texts were discovered, it was no longer there. So you might believe that this should be there or this shouldn't be there. Most theologians, would say that there wasn't actually an angel who stirred the waters and that people were healed by. But it really doesn't matter, because regardless of whether this verse was true or not, the people of that day, well, they definitely believed it. That's why verse 3 tells us, "Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed." You see, back in the day, they believed that they had a chance to be healed. So day and night, people that needed healing would surround this pool, just hoping that they might be fast enough to be the first into the waters when it stirred, so that they could finally receive their healing. These waters, they were fed by a natural spring, which would cause it to stir or bubble. So whether you believe that this was a miraculous event or whether it was a natural event, people definitely rushed into the waters whenever this took place. Well, into our story comes a young man who has become paralyzed. Doctors can do nothing to help him. His only chance for healing is a miracle. And when he hears about these miraculous waters, he knows that he has to go here. And that if he can be the first one into these waters, then he can get his life back. And when he arrives at the pool, first he is full of hope. Hope that he can be fast enough. Hope that he can maybe notice before anybody else does. Hope that he can somehow beat them to the water, even though his legs do not work. But in reality, what chance would a man with paralyzed legs and no friends or family to help him, what kind of chance would he really have to make it into the water? Try to imagine yourself in this man's shoes. Scripture tells us that he has been here for 38 years. 38 years. Any speed that he once had with his youth has been lost to old age, and any hope that he had of making it in first before everyone else, well, that has to have all but vanished. What would it feel like to have hope only to lose it? What would it feel like to watch your efforts for so many years result in absolutely nothing but wasted time? What would it feel like to be trapped in an endless cycle while all hope for healing slowly drips away? Can you put yourself in his shoes? Of course you can. Of course you can. Why? Well, because frankly, you're already wearing them. Life beats us down. The longer you live, the longer it beats. The longer it beats, the more hope disappears. You watch everybody around you in happy relationships, and you have nothing. You are kind to people, and you are treated like dirt in return. You watch everybody else get good jobs, and you're stuck in yours. You work so hard for so many years to get ahead financially, only to find yourself buried under debt. Do any of these sound familiar? You battle chronic pain and see doctor after doctor, only to have them say there's nothing that they can really do. You pour your heart and your soul into your children, only to have them turn their backs on you. You give everything you have to your marriage, only to watch it flounder. Things will never change. People will never change. Situations will never change. You will never change. Yeah, we know what it's like to be in this man's shoes, hopeless and helpless, because we wear those shoes every day. And just like him, so many times throughout life, we lose hope that things could ever be different.
Shalom.
Me?
Yes.
Shalom.
I have a question for you.
For me. I don't have many answers, but I'm listening.
Do you want to be healed?
Who are you?
We'll get to that later. But my question remains.
Will you take me to the water? Look, I'm having a really bad day.
You've been having a bad day for a long time. So?
Sir, I have no one to help me into the water when it's stirred up. And when I do get close, the others step down in front of me. And so...
Look at me. Look at me. That's not what I asked. I'm not asking you about who's helping you, or who's not helping, or who's getting in your way. I'm asking about you.
I've tried.
For a long time, I know. And you don't want false hope again, I understand. But this pool, it has nothing for you. It means nothing. And you know it. But you're still here. Why?
I don't know.
You don't need this pool. You only need me. So, do you want to be healed?
Do you want to be healed? You know, that sounds like it should be a pretty easy question to answer, shouldn't it? But it's not. Really, it isn't. And one of the reasons that it isn't is because after your hope for change has been dashed enough times, you become afraid to hope again. You don't want to experience the pain of being disappointed again. So it's easier just to leave things the way they are than it is to ask God to change them and believe that He just might. Jesus even says to this man, "And you don't want false hope again. I know. But something is different this time." You see, Jesus isn't asking the man to hope in this silly pool, or in his own strength, or even hope in the strength of his fellow men. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We think if I could just be smart enough, or tough enough, or stubborn enough, then I could get through this with my own strength and things could finally be changed. But the truth is that we are flawed humans surrounded by flawed humans who will ultimately let each other down. It's no coincidence that this man has been in this condition for 38 years. What is this representational of? Well, that's the same amount of time that the Israelites spent actively wandering around in the desert. The Israelites who felt hopeless after seeing how big the Canaanites were. The Israelites who knew that they would never be able to win a battle through their own strength against these people. They wandered for 38 years until hope began to reemerge with a new generation. A generation who was ready and willing to completely and totally trust in God and what He was capable of doing. A generation who didn't simply try to rely on their own strength, but one who chose to rely on God. This is the switch in attitude that Jesus is asking of this man. And He wants to know if he wants to be healed.
Me? So, do you want to be healed? So let's go. Get up, pick up your mat, and walk.
I'm free to walk, like he said. Don't forget your bed.
Why does this matter?
Because you're not coming back here. That life is over. Everything changes now.
That is a powerful video. That's amazing. Listen, I don't know what it is you're going through. I don't know what it is you have given up on. But I do know two things. I know that Jesus loves you, and I know that he wants you to get up and walk. I know you're tired. I know that you feel like things will never change. I know that you are afraid to hope because you don't want to be hurt again. But Jesus is begging you to get up and walk. You can do it. You can get through this if this time you choose to rely on his strength instead of your own. And I'm not telling you that it's going to be easy. And I'm not telling you that it's not going to be a bumpy ride. But I am telling you that if you have faith in God, that he can accomplish all things, then get up and walk. And take your mat with you. Because you're never coming back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care. God bless. Hope to see you soon.